All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It's good to see everyone. Listen, this is kind of the most subdued that you guys have been this year. Maybe we should do homecoming every week. And then that would... Absolutely not. We're not doing that, okay? Guys, we've had such an incredible week. And I think that you can tell that today for our alumni, our homecoming alumni chapel, it's a little bit different than what we have done in here this week. And I want to invite us to get our minds and our hearts in the space. We are not going to spin a wheel for points today. The grace of Christ has covered us all. The points are all ours, okay? We're good, all right? We're not spinning any wheel for points today. So today, I want to just focus our hearts and our minds onto what the Lord has for us today. We have some incredible alumni who are going to speak with us and for us and to us today, and we're grateful to have them. Mr. Bolt is going to introduce them, and I just feel like, students, it's been a while since we've been able to welcome Mr. Bolt. Can we give him a huge round of applause?
Well, thanks. Thanks, everybody. It has been a phenomenal week, and we're just getting started with a great weekend. So every year, we recognize a couple of alumni for exceptional work, really living an exceptional life, living out the calling, really the mission that we talk about a lot here at Wheaton Academy, and that is to live for Christ in all we do and to serve others with our lives. And I have the privilege this morning of introducing an alumnus of the year, a young alumnus of the year, and then our science award recipient, which we also recognize somebody for their work in the area of science throughout the course of their life. And what I want you to think about is this. Some of you are probably going to be sitting here years from now as a young alumnus of the year, as an alumnus of the year, because you answered God's call on your life in some area of the world. So if you just play the movie of your life forward, one of your classmates or one of you is going to be up here in the years ahead. So with that perspective, I'd like to first introduce Chet Stewart, who is our 2023 alumnus of the year. And as Chet comes up here, I'm going to share a little bit about who he is. During his time at Wheaton Academy, Chet Stewart was a member of the Academy Choir, a gospel quartet, a running back on the football team, and served as co-captain of the wrestling team. And in 1958, Chet graduated and went on to receive a degree in business from Wheaton College. Following 2 years of active duty, Chet served an additional 7 years in the Army Reserve, eventually becoming a captain. And in 1964, Chet moved to Albuquerque, where he met and fell in love with Diana Key, his wife of 58 years. Yeah, that's worth an applause. Chet has served as the CEO of French Funerals in Albuquerque for 41 years, growing it into one of the largest independent funeral service companies in the country. And Chet believes that the funeral business is the Lord's way of allowing him to minister to the needs of people at the most difficult times of their lives. In addition to serving as the president of New Mexico Funeral Service Association, Chet has served on various boards, including Young Life, Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce, Albuquerque Holocaust Museum, Noonday Homeless Ministry, and the University of New Mexico Anderson School of Business Foundation. So please join me in welcoming the 2023 Alumnus of the Year, Chet Stewart. Chet, thanks for being here. Now, as I said, we always recognize a young alumnus of the year as well. And our young alumnus missed his flight. I think it was a connection issue in Charlotte, so he did not make it here on time for this morning's chapel. He will be here later today. But his name is Nick Lee, and let me tell you a little bit about Nick. In 2009, at the age of 13, Nick Lee left his home country of Vietnam and entered his freshman year here at Wheaton Academy, at which time Nick was introduced to the concept of Christianity, a perspective he had not previously encountered. The impact of the core tenets such as grace and unconditional love became the catalyst for the life Nick knew he wanted to pursue. And after graduating from the academy in 2013, Nick attended John Brown University in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, a decision rooted in his newfound beliefs and desires to pursue Christ. During his time at John Brown, Nick translated C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity into Vietnamese. Although a vigorous academic exercise, the translation was born out of his desire to share with others in his home country the powerful ideas that had so transformed his life. Nick's commitment to sharing his Christian faith has permeated every aspect of his professional life. Currently, Nick resides in Sydney, Australia, where he works as a product manager for PaidRight and contributes his skills in accounting and finance to his involvement in such cross-cultural ministries as Bridging Border International, Oz Harvest, and Keeping Connected. So please join me, even though he's not here, in recognizing our young alumnus of the year, Nick Lee. And as I mentioned, every year we recognize a Richard Holt Science Award recipient. If you come into our Science and Technology Center from the parking lot that's furthest south and come into the door kind of in the baseball outfield, you will notice on the wall there are all the Richard Holt Science Award recipients since we opened the Science and Technology Center. So if you want to look back or see where we commemorate that, that's where it's located. So Dr. Sam Dominguez, after graduating from Wheaton Academy in 1998, received his undergraduate degree from Wheaton College, and in 1993 entered the University of Chicago's Medical Scientist Training Program. Over the next 11 years, Sam completed medical school, his residency, an additional year of research, and earned his PhD. During medical school, Sam met his wife, Ann, who's also a practicing physician. The couple married and moved to Denver in 2004. Sam is a full professor at the University of Colorado School of Medicine and currently serves as the medical director of the Clinical Microbiology Laboratory at the Children's Hospital, Colorado. His 10 years of bench research focused on coronaviruses, as well as his role as infectious disease consultant, prepared Sam well to lead the development of the first clinically available test for COVID in Colorado and serve as a content advisor for the hospital and governor's office. Sam shares that he is grateful his expertise has allowed him to have a voice to speak for and protect the most vulnerable. So please join me in welcoming this year's Richard Holt Science Award winner, Dr. Sam Dominguez. Sam, welcome.
Well, what an honor it is to have these two with us today. This morning as we were chatting, they shared with me that they absolutely love public speaking. So that's not what you said. Not exactly what you said, but what an honor to have them and to hear a little bit of their stories and their experiences here at Wheaton Academy in their years here. Chet, you graduated in when? 58, 60-something years ago? 65 years ago. That was great. And I was just thinking, as Mr. Bolt said that some of you might be sitting here, can you guys imagine how old I'm going to be interviewing you? when you're here 65 years from now. It's going to be amazing. Well, you guys get to see Chet and Sam live. This is what they look like today, but I thought you might like to see what they looked like in high school. Here's Chet in high school. If you like that, check out Sam Dominguez. Okay. I love it. I love it. Well, as you guys can guess, Wheaton Academy was a much different place when they were here, and I'd love to ask you guys just to begin. Chet, tell us a little bit about what was Wheaton Academy like when you were here over 60 years ago?
Well, I grew up in El Paso, Texas, West Texas. And by the way, football is big in Texas. I was so excited to find out that you guys had beat that Austin team that you went down to play. Yeah. But when I was 14 years old, my parents dropped me and my older brother off here at Wheaton Academy. We were dorm students. Now, the dorm was full, but we lived in the house across the street that the math teacher, Mark Williams, lived in. We lived upstairs. And I was greeted by two new roommates. One was a fellow named John Huffman. John is an amazing guy. Some of you may know who he is, but he's a great leader and an amazing person. He pastored several large churches, including one of the largest evangelical Presbyterian churches in the country, and God has used him in so many different ways. World Vision, Christianity Today, Gordon Conwell Seminary, among others. An amazing guy. He was one of my roommates. Now, his folks were building a house in Wheaton, and so he was only my roommate for the first semester of the year. But my second roommate was a guy named George Tolles, who lives in Seattle, Washington. Another amazing guy. George went on to become a well-known media personality, and I could tell you a lot about him because I know him very well, but he eventually became the announcer for the Seattle Supersonics in the NFL, the NBA. And he did that for many years, but he felt a calling to minister to athletes and to business people. And he formed an organization to reach out to to these people, and the organization's name was His Deal. I thought it was kind of a cool name, and he got to know the CEO of Nordstrom's, and he offered him the boardroom of Nordstrom's to begin his meetings. Now he's been doing this for about 45 years now, and George is not well. He has Parkinson's, but he still does it. He does it online now. But a truly amazing guy. So I was greeted by two truly amazing people at the academy, and so I was off to a good start. I had to pedal pretty fast to keep up with these guys because they were really amazing. And then I'll just mention two or three others. A guy by the name of George Kraft, who was probably the best athlete at the academy. He was really good in football and basketball, and he went on to become a key player on Wheaton College's undefeated team in 1961, 60 or 61. And then he went on to become football coach at Hope and then athletic director. Just an amazing guy. Another guy is named Bill Wood. When he finished Wheaton Academy and Wheaton College, he went to medical school at Harvard. He graduated at the top of his class and eventually became the head of surgery at Emory School of Medicine in Atlanta. Another amazing guy. And the last two I want to mention are two guys that are not so well known, But one was Jim Carmine, and both of them played on the football team, by the way. Jim Carmine, and Jim and his wife Annette, who also graduated from here, they became missionaries in Venezuela. And the other one I'm going to mention is John Seval, who he and his wife Judy became missionaries in Ecuador. Now, these guys aren't in the limelight like some of the rest of us, but I want to tell you, when they stand before the Lord, they're going to have extra stars in their crown. That's the kind of people they were, and they're just amazing people. And one other person who will be here tonight, who was a senior when I was a freshman, Dick Geezer, who Wheaton Eye Clinic. Some of you may know what that is. He was a doctor, an ophthalmologist. Just an amazing guy. Our lives have crossed paths so many different ways through the years. In fact, he married a girl who had gone to Wheaton College, who had grown up in El Paso, whose mother was the best friend of my mom. That's how close it was. It was really, really amazing. And Dick is coming. He's coming to the event tonight. Just an amazing guy. But just some of these people. By the way, the only buildings that were here back then that are still here are the gym and the chapel. All the rest of it's changed. And the school was much smaller. I don't think we realized that we were big ducks in a small pond. We thought we were a big pond, but we weren't really. But it was a great place. I just have such amazing memories of it.
Oh, that's so great. I love when I ask you, tell me about your experience at Wheaton Academy. You just started listing off all of your friends and all the people who influenced your life. And I know that's hard for you guys to gather that up right now and to think about that, but the people that you're sitting with are going to impact your life for a long, long time. Sam, tell us about your experience. What was it like when you were a student here?
I was going to say the obvious that it was a much smaller place than it is now. A lot of the wonderful buildings and resources you have here, we just didn't have when I was here. So I think that's really a wonderful change and a huge advantage for all of you here today. But I would echo what was said earlier, that really my experience was shaped by the friends that I made here as well. Several of them are still friends with me today that were in my wedding and still contact with today. So it's still, I think, it was a wonderful place to connect with people, and that was really my experience as well.
I love that. I want to stick with you for a second, Sam. As a scientist and as a doctor, you've had some pretty amazing experiences here in the last few years. Tell us a little bit, when you think about being a student at Wheaton Academy, what has been kind of surprising about what life has been like for you, not just through your career, but even these last few years, how the Lord has used what you learned here to make an impact in your community?
Yeah, when you first started that question, I was going to say something I think was kind of silly, but the fact was that I really hate public speaking, and when I was here as a student in high school and in college, my least favorite class was speech. And really, over the past decade, I've become a spokesman for our hospital around different outbreaks that happened and different policies that we've been implementing. And then during COVID, I really, because of my experience and my research and other parts of my life that I was involved with, really was the scientific expert for the hospital and actually for the state of Colorado. And so was on the news all the time, was talking about COVID, talking about how we stay safe. And if you had told me that, 30 years ago, that I would be on the news, weekly, I would have sort of laughed in your face, because it's not who I am, not who I thought I would be, in terms of thinking about sort of skills that I was going to have moving on in my life. So
that's great. Chet, tell us a little bit. How do you feel like Wheaton Academy prepared you for your career, or was your career even surprising to you after graduating from high school? What are you?
The last thing I ever expected to do was go into funeral service. I just never thought that would be it. I had worked with my father in his business, and I knew the business pretty well. But when I finished my time in the service, my grandfather convinced me to come to Albuquerque. That's another whole story. But regarding my time at the academy, I still remember the devotionals that Mel Johnson had in our class. He was a biology teacher. He was an amazing biology teacher. Actually became the director of the school at the time, and truly was an amazing guy. Impacted my life greatly. I mean, I can name several teachers that impacted me like that. But Mark Williams, I mentioned him. He was a math teacher, and just an amazing guy. I also want to mention Dwayne Benjamin, who was a choir director, and in 1956, our choir took a trip to Europe, and Dwayne prepared us well for that trip. We sang all over Great Britain and then on the continent. And at that time, that was a really highly unusual thing for people to do. But we had a challenge of trying to lead the bus driver to a saving relationship with Jesus, and he came to Christ during that time. It was really exciting. It was awesome. Yes. And but Dwayne he was a disciplinarian, and he expected the best from us, and that's good because that helped me later on, of course. And then I want to mention Wendy Harris, who was a football coach. Wendy was really a disciplinarian in football. And when I came as a freshman, I wanted to play football, and I played on the JV team. I don't think we won a game the first year, but at the end of the season, Coach Harris came up to me and he said, "I've been watching you, and if you keep working like you're working," he said, "you're going to be a good football player." And I thought, man, what does he see in me? I'm sure he did the same with others, but because he was pretty much a psychologist too. But anyway, some of you may know that by our senior year, with a lot of the same players, we were undefeated in football. He was an amazing coach, and he really got the most out of us. It was just a wonderful time, great memories that I have. And so I just have always appreciated. He was the wrestling coach and then the track coach. Dick Geezer, the doctor that I mentioned earlier, who lives in Wheaton, he was a senior when I was a freshman, and he talked me into going out for wrestling. He said, "I think you'd really like wrestling," and I really respected Dick, and so I went out for wrestling, and that's what I did for 4 years. And then I did it also at Wheaton College later on, and I've often said to people that my education was really important to me, but the things that really helped me in my leadership the most were sports and the military, because they brought great discipline to my life, and I'm just so thankful that I had the privilege of being involved in both.
Really beautiful. Sam, tell us a little bit. Of course, we're a Christian high school. Have been from our founding, and we're really concerned about the spiritual formation of students. Tell us a little bit about how you were spiritually formed here at Wheaton Academy. What was that like for you? What are some things that you felt encouraged by?
That's a great question. I think the things that I was most encouraged by were conversations that I had with teachers and sort of small group discussions with other students. I think that high school is a time when you're starting to figure out who you are and trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and who the type of person you want to be. And it provides provides a space to sort of start asking some of those questions. And I think that's what I would encourage people is that it's good to ask questions. It's good to be curious. It's good to sort of think about things, and it's even good sometimes to doubt about some things as well. Particularly when you're in an environment where you have people around you to support you in that. And so I had some really wonderful teachers and mentors who provided that space to ask those questions and to help me sort of struggle with figuring out, some of the questions that we all wrestle with growing up. So
yeah, great. Chet, same question for you. How was your spiritual life encouraged here? I know you shared with me that you grew up in a Christian home. You're doing prison ministry with your dad when you were a child. How were you encouraged spiritually while you were here at Wheaton Academy?
Well, the teachers were amazing that we had, and I remember a lot of the devotionals that we had in class that challenged me. Also, in the dorm, we had a prayer meeting in the morning. We'd get together and we would share the needs that we sensed around us, and we would pray for our fellow students and for our teachers. And it was it was a very special time. And every morning during the week we did it. And So I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the contact, the amazing teachers who influenced me spiritually, and the other students as well.
I love to hear that, because thinking all of these years, I feel like we're still a place that it's safe to ask questions, and it's safe for us to be able to explore Christianity and the things that are sometimes, and this is a difficult world that these students are growing up in, and the power of prayer and meeting together. Students, I hope that you're getting from Chet's story how different it was that Wheaton Academy had a dormitory. It was a boarding school, and so to hear him talk about roommates, that wasn't college, that was high school. He had roommates, and so that was a very, very special experience for you to have that time with them. Well, here's the last question that I'll ask you guys as I'm watching the clock for us. There are 650 or so high school students sitting in front of you. Their experience is much different from when you were here, Chad, and even for you, Sam. What encouragement would you want to offer to these students today as they think about the beginning of your journey? You guys are in very different places on your journey. What would your encouragement be for them? Chet, we'll start with you.
Okay. When I came as a freshman, you know, when you're a freshman, you feel like you're kind of a nobody. You're at the bottom of the rung. And there was a student here. His name was Bob Carlson. And Bob was very popular. He was nice looking, had a pretty girlfriend. He was quarterback on the football team. He was baseball pitcher. He was truly an amazing guy. And he always went out of his way to be kind to me. He was very kind. And I thought, why is he? Because I didn't know him. It wasn't like my roommates who were also very, very kind to me. But he didn't really know me that well, but he was just kind. And so I began watching him, and I noticed he was just kind to everybody. And I thought, I want to be like him. He loved Jesus, and he was just kind to people. I said, I want to be kind. So as we started having a family we had 3 boys, birth sons, and then later an adopted son. I wanted to create an image for them that would help to remind them of the importance of valuing people. And so I started telling them when they were young, I would say, every person you're ever going to meet has a sign hanging around their neck. If you can read that sign, it'll change their life. And my oldest son, who's sitting down here, by the way, when he was young, he would say, well, Dad, what if you don't feel like they're important? Isn't that being phony to act like they're important? And I said, Rich, they're important to God. They ought to be important to you. And he said, that's right. And so, but that came out of some thought from another student while I was here who, and by the way, he's in heaven today. Bob Carlson is, and truly was an amazing. Of course, later I got to know him much better, but I don't think he realizes how he impacted my life. So try to think of ways to value people the way Jesus values each one of us.
Wow, that's good. I want to let that sink in a second, guys. You could have said, read the Bible every day, which is an important thing to do, by the way. You could have said a number of things, but be kind and value people. Yeah. That's beautiful. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question, too. I was thinking about this, and I think there's 3 things. It's a good thing to say 3 things that I want to encourage you all with today. The first is what I already said, was just to be curious. In the world of science, that is sort of, the key question is sort of when we have questions, be curious, seek answers, experiment. But I think that's true for all areas of your life, and even with your faith. We need to be curious about things. We need to sort of question and seek answers, and don't be afraid of that. The second I would say is that practice gratitude. I think that the past few years have been really hard for everyone. It's been a really challenging time in our world, and I think that one thing I learned over the past several years is the power of practicing gratitude. And the third thing I would say is don't be afraid. I think that we are in society at large, that we're sort of taught to be fearful of so many things. Be fearful of the people who are different than you. Be fearful of things you don't understand. Be fearful of whatever. Put in whatever you want in that box. I think we, as people of faith and Christ followers, we're really taught that love can cast out fear, and so we need to be people of love and not of fear, and to really be more. It's more important to love those around you than to be right, I think, and so I think we need to really have love as our guiding principle, and put aside our fears that so often invade and cripple us to do the work that we need to do.
Wow, so good, so good. Thank you so much for that. Just the opportunity to love people and not always have to be right. That's so hard in the world in which we live. Could you guys just give these two a round of applause real quickly? We've got just a few minutes, and I want to tell you a little bit about Nick, and I want to challenge you guys with something on your journey. Rach, let's show the real life Nick today. This is Nick. We can pretend he was with us today. There he is, Nick. All right. And then let's go ahead and let's show Nick as a high school student. Okay. Now listen, I have one more picture that I want to show you, but we're going to hang on to that picture for just a second. I want to tell you just a little bit of kind of wrapping up time with these guys. Chet is one of 6 kids. He and his older brother came to Wheaton Academy as high school students from El Paso, Texas, as boarding students. Sam is one of 9 children, 8 students. 8 of those children came to Wheaton Academy. And crazy enough, do you have a niece and a nephew here?
Shout out Anna and Eli, somewhere out there.
Oh, there it was. Anna and Eli, what a beautiful thing to have Uncle Sam here today. I love it. That sounds crazy, Uncle Sam. All right. Let me tell you a little bit about Nick to close up today. Nick didn't come from a Christian home, as Mr. Bolt told us earlier. Came from a family in Vietnam, a family who highly valued academic excellence. He came to Wheaton Academy, as so many of our international students may experience, coming not knowing much, if anything, about Christianity and the Word of God. And in his time here at Wheaton Academy, in his junior year, he came to saving knowledge of Christ. He chose to be a Christ follower, and a lot of it because of the relationship with teachers and the kindness of friends, of people who demonstrated Christ to him. He was able to put his faith in Christ. And I want to say to you guys who are here today, we've been talking about this whole month of looking up and fixing our eyes on Christ in our theme of journey. Students, you're on very different places in your journey. We're on very different places. We're starting at different places. You're in a different place now. You're going to end up in different places. That is demonstrated here before you today. And right now, there may be some of you who your experience has been much like these guys, raised in a Christian home. You were raised with a family who this was their trajectory for your life, and you are kind of living in that river and flowing into that. But there are many of you who are here tonight or today that's not your experience. Maybe you have not yet met Jesus Christ. You've not yet chosen to put him on the throne of your life. And I want you to know that this is a part of your journey, and it's okay for you to journey on that, to let that seed be planted and to let that seed be watered and to let the fruit of putting Christ on the throne of your life come to you whenever it is. But I want to challenge you on this. If you are at a place in your life that you want to put Christ on the throne and say, Jesus, I want to surrender my life to you. Man, what a beautiful time to do that as we wrap up this homecoming week. Because when we think about homecoming, that's the best place that we can is come home to Christ. And I want to show you one last picture that I just think is a beautiful picture of Nick that he experienced his junior year of high school. Can we show this? Nick got baptized while he was a junior here in high school, and his host parent had the privilege of baptizing him. What a beautiful, beautiful experience. And so my encouragement today, as we hear the encouragement to be kind and curious and thankful and to not fear, that we would look up and that we would let Christ rule and reign in our lives. Students, you're amazing. We've had an incredible week, and I hope that you have an incredible day. Yeah, you have. Let me pray for us, and then I'm going to let you run. Lord, we are grateful today for the heritage of faith that we experience. In this school, we're celebrating 170 years. You've impacted the lives of so many students. You continue to do so, and we're very grateful for that. I thank you for Chet and for Sam and for Nick, and I ask that you would continue to use them in the ministries that you have called them to. And would you bless this group of students in this year, 2023-24, would you impact us deeply, transform our lives, that we may be who you have created and designed us to be. We thank you for this. And we ask in the name of Jesus, and all God's people say, amen. See you guys